Hello. We're going to look at solving one-step equations, but instead of using addition and subtraction like we did before, we are going to use multiplication and division. So in the same way that addition and subtraction are considered inverse operations and they undo each other, so to speak, multiplication and division cancel each other out and are inverse operations. Okay? Oftentimes, the division you will see will be in the form of a fraction. Okay? So like x over 3, this means x divided by 3. The fraction bar just tells us it's going to be division. And on your graphing calculator, what you'll do is, for a fraction, you'll just do left parenthesis x slash 3 parenthesis. You won't be using x, you'll be using a number, but that's just a question I know I always get. But that's what that means. Couple of examples. We have negative 4x equals 1. Okay, so this is negative 4 times x. The inverse of multiplying by negative 4 is dividing by negative 4. And as always, if we do this to one side of the equation, we also have to do it to the other. So negative 4 divided by negative 4 becomes positive 1x, while 1 divided by negative 4 becomes negative 1/4. And that would be our answer. We could always check it by doing negative 4 times negative 1/4, and we're trying to get 1. The negatives will cancel. Negative times negative is a positive. The 4's will cancel. All we're left with 1 is equal to 1. So it checks out. Negative 3 times x, again, that's multiplication. The inverse of multiplying by negative 3 is dividing by negative 3. But if I divide the left side by negative 3, I also have to divide the right side by negative 3. X is equal to negative 2/3. And that would check out if we went back and substituted it in. We're not going to do that right now, though. A couple of more examples here. If you notice, we have division, though. We have x divided by 5 equals negative 30. Well, the inverse of dividing by 5 is multiplying by 5. So I'm going to multiply the left side by 5. That means I also have to multiply the right side by 5. So the 5's cancel each other out, and I'm left with x on the left side, which is what we want. And then negative 30 times 5 is negative 150. Okay, again, we can check this. Negative 150 over 5. That's supposed to equal negative 30. Negative 150 divided by 5, that gives us negative 30 equals negative 30. That checks out. Same type of question on the right side here, except we have x divided by 9 equals negative 25. I need to multiply both sides this time by 9. The inverse of dividing by 9 is multiplying by 9. So I have the 9's that cancel. I get x is equal to, well, negative 25 times 9 should be negative 225. Negative 225. One more step here that we can do is if we have a fraction that is not just a variable over a number. Okay? There's a couple of different ways we can go about doing this. I'm going to show you the shortest, most efficient way. And if we're unsure on it, we want another way, we have another way to do it as well. But we can solve an equation that has a fraction coefficient by multiplying by the reciprocal of that fraction. Okay, so what we have is here's the fraction, negative 2/3. Okay? The reciprocal of negative 2/3 is negative 3/2 is the reciprocal. So what that means, I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by negative 3/2. Okay? The reason we multiply the right side by negative 3/2 is it's going to cancel those two things out. The 3 and the 3 cancel, the 2 and the 2 cancel, the negative and the negative cancel as well, and it leaves us with x. That's why multiplying by the reciprocal is nice. Now we can negative 3 times 10, negative 3/2 times 10. We can cancel the 2, it would be 1, the 10 would then become 5, because 10 divided by 2 is 5. So negative 3 times 5 gives us negative 15. That is our final answer, multiplying by a reciprocal. Properties of equality, we've referenced these several times as we've solved equations. Essentially what it says, the most important thing here, is this one right here. If you perform an operation on one side of an equation, you must do the same to the other side. What this does is make sure that you have an equivalent equation produced and that it is exactly what you need. That's all we have for today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.